Chapter 1. The Foggy Departure. Alex Rivera eased the delivery van out of the narrow Edinburgh side street, the engine's low rumble blending with the soft hiss of tires on wet cobblestones. The dashboard clock glowed 6:47 p.m. Dusk had already settled, thick and gray, pressing the city lights into watery smears behind the windshield. A steady drizzle tapped the roof like impatient fingers. He adjusted the rearview mirror, catching a final glimpse of the castle silhouette fading on the hill, then focused on the road ahead. At 32, Alex had spent the last 4 years driving packages across Scotland. Everything from fragile glassware to industrial parts. Occasionally something stranger like tonight's load. A sealed wooden crate marked antique ecclesiastical items. Handle with extreme care. The client had paid triple for the overnight rush to Inverglen estate, deep in the Highlands. Enough money to cover rent, groceries, and maybe even a few quiet weeks without taking extra shifts. He told himself that was why he'd accepted the job. The truth sat heavier. Long, empty drives kept the memories at arm's length. He flicked the wipers to a faster rhythm as the drizzle thickened. The city thinned out quickly. Tenements gave way to industrial estates, then to open dual carriageway flanked by dark fields. Radio reception faltered. He switched it off rather than listen to static. Silence suited him better anyway. 20 minutes later, the fuel warning light blinked on. He swore under his breath and took the next exit toward a small services area called the Thistle's Rest. The inn sat slightly back from the road, its stone facade glowing amber under sodium lights. A handful of cars dotted the car park, most of them local plates. Alex pulled up beside a pump, killed the engine, and stepped out into the damp chill. The smell hit him first. Wet peat, wood smoke, fried onions drifting from the kitchen. He filled the tank, then pushed through the heavy oak door into the pub side of the building. Warmth enveloped him instantly. A low fire crackled in the hearth. Half a dozen patrons sat scattered across worn tables, voices murmuring beneath the hum of an old jukebox playing something soft and folky. Alex headed straight for the bar. A woman in her late 20s stood behind the counter, wiping glasses with a white cloth. Auburn hair pulled into a loose ponytail, green eyes sharp and assessing. Her name tag read Fiona. "Evening," she said. "What'll it be?" "Black coffee, please." "To go." She nodded, already reaching for the pot. Long night ahead. Heading north, Inverglen Way. Her hand paused for half a second. Old Glen Road? "That's the one." She poured the coffee, slid the paper cup across the bar, then leaned forward slightly. "Mind if I give you a word of advice?" Alex raised an eyebrow. "Go on. Stick to the A9 as long as you can." The Glen turns narrow and twisty after the turnoff. Fog rolls in thick this time of year. And she glanced toward the two older men sitting at the corner table, their heads close together. "Some folk round here still talk about that stretch like it's alive." Alex gave a small, tired smile. "Ghost stories?" "Not exactly." She lowered her voice. "More like grudges that never settled. People go missing up there. Not often. Just enough to make you remember the names." One of the cornermen looked over, eyes glassy from whiskey. "Tell him about the MacGregors. Fie," he called. "Tell him what happens when ye carry something that don't belong to ye." Fiona shot the man a look that shut him up fast. Then she turned back to Alex. "Ignore Tam. He's had one too many. Just drive careful, yeah?" Alex nodded, paid, and picked up the cup. As he turned to leave, his phone buzzed in his pocket. Unknown number. He opened the message. "Turn back. The road remembers." He stared at the screen for several seconds. No sender name. No profile picture. Just those 4 words. He typed a quick reply. "Who is this?" The message sat there, undelivered. He shoved the phone back in his pocket and stepped outside. The drizzle had become proper rain. He jogged to the van, climbed in, and started the engine. The heater blasted lukewarm air against the fogging glass. He sat for a moment, coffee warming his hands, staring at the dark road beyond the car park. He could turn around, take the job another night. But the money was already half in his account, and turning back felt like admitting something he wasn't ready to name. He put the van in gear and pulled out. The A9 carried him north for another 40 minutes. Straight, fast, almost comforting in its monotony. Then the sign for the Glen Road turnoff appeared, half hidden by dripping branches. He indicated left. The road narrowed immediately. Double yellow lines vanished. Tarmac became patched and uneven. Trees closed in on both sides, their branches meeting overhead like interlaced fingers. Headlights carved two pale tunnels through the thickening mist. Alex kept the speed steady, eyes flicking between the road and the mirrors. Nothing behind him. Nothing ahead, until there was. A shape stood on the left verge, just inside the beam of his lights. Tall, motionless, hood up against the rain. A hitchhiker. Alex's first instinct was to keep driving. Common sense screamed it. But something, maybe the memory of too many freezing nights on patrol, maybe simple human reflex, made him ease off the accelerator. The figure raised a hand, slow, deliberate, not waving, pointing directly at the van. Alex's pulse kicked up. He coasted to a stop 10 meters past the figure, brakes hissing on wet road. In the mirror, he watched the shape walk forward, boots crunching gravel. The passenger door opened. A gust of cold, wet air rushed in. An elderly man climbed inside, wool coat dripping, face shadowed under the hood. "Evening, lad," he said, voice rough but calm. "Name's Ewan. Car packed in a mile back. Mind giving us a lift to the next village?" Alex studied him. Weathered skin, pale blue eyes, hands steady despite the tremor in his shoulders from cold. He hesitated. Then he nodded. "Buckle up." The door closed. The van rolled forward again, swallowed by fog. Behind them, the road lay empty, but in the silence that followed, Alex could have sworn he heard something. A low, distant whisper. Not words, just the sound of breath against stone. Waiting. Chapter 2. The Phantom Passenger. The fog thickened the moment the van left the last streetlight behind. What had been a manageable mist on the A9 now pressed against the windshield like damp cotton, reducing visibility to 20 meters at best. Alex kept the speed down to 40, high beams slicing uselessly through the white wall. The road had narrowed to a single lane with passing places every few hundred yards, barely wide enough for two cars to squeeze by if they had to. Ewan sat quietly for the first few minutes, hands folded in his lap, coat still dripping onto the floor mat. The only sound was the rhythmic slap of wipers and the low drone of the heater fan. Alex stole glances sideways. The old man's profile looked carved from weathered oak, deep lines around the mouth, pale eyes fixed on the swirling gray beyond the glass. "Long drive for you tonight," Ewan said at last, voice carrying the soft burr of the western Highlands. "Rush job," Alex replied. "Client wanted the delivery by morning." Ewan gave a small nod. "Inverglen Estate. Old place. Been in the same family since the clearances, they say. Though the family tree's got a few branches missing these days." Alex didn't respond. He wasn't in the mood for local history lessons. But Ewan continued anyway, unhurried. This stretch, the Old Glen Road, was the drover's route once, cattle down from the hills to market. Folk used to travel it in groups for safety, not just from wolves or weather. There were others, men who'd wait in the mist, take what they wanted, leave the rest for the crows. Alex's grip tightened on the wheel. Highwaymen? Worse. Clanmen, MacGregors mostly, outlawed, hunted, bitter. They'd pose as guides, lead travelers off the path, then rob them blind, or worse. Word got round quick. After a while, no one trusted a stranger on this road, and the ones who did, he trailed off, letting the silence finish the sentence. Alex kept his eyes on the road. Sounds like a long time ago. Time doesn't erase debts, Ewan said quietly. Some things linger, especially when they're carried in the wrong hands. A chill crawled up Alex's spine that had nothing to do with the heater struggling against the cold. He thought of the sealed crate in the back, antique ecclesiastical items. Crosses, maybe. Reliquaries. Things that had once meant something to someone. He pushed the thought away. His phone buzzed in the cup holder. Fiona's name flashed on the screen. He answered on speaker. "Yeah, Alex? It's Fiona from the Thistle." Her voice sounded tighter than it had at the bar. "You picked up the old man, didn't you?" Alex glanced at Ewan, who was staring straight ahead, expression unreadable. "Yeah, he's here," said his car broke down. A pause. Rain drummed harder on the roof. "That's my granda," she said. Ewan MacLeod? He's harmless, but he wanders when the weather's bad. Gets confused. Look, don't let him talk your ear off with the old stories. Just get him to the next village, drop him at the petrol station. I'll come collect him. Alex frowned. "He seems fine. He always seems fine," Fiona said. "Until he isn't. Please, drop him soon." The line crackled, then went dead. Alex lowered the phone slowly. "Your granddaughter's worried about you." Ewan gave a dry chuckle. "Fiona worries about everything. Good lass. Takes after her mother." Silence returned, heavier now. Alex tried to focus on the road, but the old man's presence filled the cab like damp wool. He could smell the wet wool of the coat, the faint trace of pipe smoke that clung to the fabric. Every few seconds he caught himself checking the mirrors, half expecting to see headlights behind them. Nothing, just fog and darkness. Then Ewan spoke again, softer this time. "You've the look of a man who's carried a rifle once." Alex's jaw clenched. "Army. A while back. Thought so. The way you scan the verges. The way you keep both hands high on the wheel. You've waited in places darker than this, haven't you?" Alex didn't answer. "Betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from your own side," Ewan continued. "One moment you're shoulder to shoulder. Next moment the shot comes from behind. Leaves a mark no one else can see." The words landed like stones in still water. Alex's pulse thudded in his ears. He hadn't spoken about Kandahar to anyone in years. Not the ambush, not the radio call that never came, not the friend who'd sold their position for a handful of cash and a promise of safety. How the hell did this stranger know? He shot a look across the cab. "What do you want?" Ewan met his gaze calmly. "Just a lift, lad. And maybe a warning. Whatever's in the back of this van, it doesn't belong on this road. Not tonight." Alex's mouth went dry. "It's just cargo." "Is it?" Ewan reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, tarnished silver cross on a thin chain. He held it up so the dashboard lights caught the edges. This was taken from Inverglen Chapel in 1746. Stolen during the last rising, been missing ever since. Until now. Alex stared at the cross. It looked old, too old, and far too similar to the description on the delivery manifest. "Where did you get that?" Ewan didn't answer. Instead, he placed the cross carefully on the dashboard, between them. Then he reached for the door handle. Alex's hand shot out. "Wait," but Ewan was already moving. The door swung open. Cold air rushed in, carrying mist and the sharp scent of pine. Then he was gone. No sound of boots hitting gravel. No silhouette in the headlights. Just the door hanging open. rain blowing across the empty seat. Alex slammed on the brakes. The van skidded to a stop, tires screeching on wet tarmac. He stared at the passenger seat. Empty. The coat was still there, folded neatly. But Ewan had vanished. Heart hammering, Alex leaned over and picked up the coat. It was heavy, sodden. He patted the pockets, half expecting to find nothing. Instead, his fingers closed around folded paper. He pulled it out, an old Ordnance Survey map, edges frayed, creased from years of use. Someone had drawn red lines across it in faded ink, routes, crossings, and 3 small 10s marked in precise locations. One of them sat directly over Inver Glen estate. Another was circled, with a single word written beside it in spidery handwriting. Beware. Alex looked up through the open door into the fog. Nothing moved, but the silence felt watchful. He closed the door, locked it. Then he put the van in gear and drove on. The red-inked map lying open on the passenger seat, like a warning he could no longer ignore. Chapter 3. The Ruined Outpost. The engine died without warning. 1 second, the headlights were carving steady paths through the fog. The next, the van lurched, coughed once, and went silent. Alex coasted to a gentle stop on the narrow verge, tires crunching over loose stones. The dashboard lights dimmed to a weak orange glow before fading completely. Dead. He turned the key. Nothing. Not even a click. Bloody hell, he muttered, popping the bonnet release and stepping out into the damp night. The air was colder here, sharper, carrying the scent of wet heather and something older. Moss, ancient stone, decay. The fog pressed close, muffling every sound except his own breathing. He shone his phone's torch under the bonnet. Battery terminals looked clean. No obvious loose wires. Fuel gauge had been half full when he left the Thistle. Nothing made sense. He straightened, sweeping the light across the road. About 50 meters ahead, half swallowed by mist, stood the low outline of a ruined croft house. Stone walls still mostly upright, roof long gone, one gable end leaning like a drunk against the wind. A faint orange flicker danced inside one of the window openings. Firelight. Someone was there. Alex hesitated. Every instinct from 8 years in uniform told him to stay with the vehicle, call for roadside assistance, wait it out. But the signal on his phone had dropped to 0 bars 10 minutes ago, and the temperature was falling fast. He couldn't sit in a dead van all night. He locked the van, pocketed the keys, and started walking, torch beam bouncing ahead of him. The croft was smaller up close. Single story, maybe 3 rooms once. The doorway gaped like a missing tooth. Fresh boot prints tracked through the mud in front of it, overlapping in several directions. Recent. Multiple people. He stepped inside. The floor was packed earth covered in broken slate and sheep droppings. In the far corner, a small fire burned in what had once been the hearth. Dry peat and scavenged wood, flames low but steady. 3 figures sat around it on upturned crates and a rucksack. They looked up as one when his torch swept across them. A woman rose first. Mid-30s, dark hair tied back, wearing a wax jacket and sturdy boots. She held a metal camping mug in one hand, the other resting casually near her hip pocket. "You're a long way from anywhere," she said. Scottish, but softer than Fiona's West Coast burr. "Van trouble? Battery, I think. Won't turn over." Alex kept the torch lowered so it didn't blind them. "You lot out here surveying?" She smiled faintly. "Something like that. I'm Isla. These are my colleagues, Callum and Morag." The man, broad-shouldered, bearded, gave a short nod. The woman beside him, younger, with a wool beanie pulled low, just watched him. "Alex," he said. "Mind if I warm up a minute? I'll call breakdown once the signal comes back." Isla gestured toward an empty crate. "Sit. Tea's fresh. No point freezing out there." He accepted the mug she handed him, black tea, strong, laced with sugar. The warmth seeped into his fingers. He stayed near the doorway, back to the wall, eyes flicking between them and the fire. "You're carrying something valuable," Isla said after a moment. Not a question. Alex tensed. "Standard delivery. Antiques. Nothing special." Callum snorted softly. Inverglen Estate doesn't pay triple for nothing special. Alex met his gaze. "You know the client?" "We know the road," Isla said. "And we know what travels it. That crate in your van. It's not the first time pieces like that have come this way. Last time, the driver didn't make it to the estate." "Accident?" Alex asked, voice level. "Depends who you ask." She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "Some say the Glen remembers. Some say it collects. Either way, things that were taken once tend to find their way back." Alex thought of the silver cross on the dashboard, the red-inked map in his pocket. He kept his expression neutral. "You sound like you believe in curses." "I believe in patterns," Isla replied. "People disappear here. Vehicles break down. Fog comes down thick just when it shouldn't. And every time, something old and valuable is involved." Morag spoke for the first time, voice quiet. "We're not here to rob you. We're here to document. The estate's selling off family heirlooms. Some of them shouldn't leave Scotland. We're trying to track where they go." Alex studied her face in the firelight. She looked earnest. Too earnest, maybe. He took a slow sip of tea. "Appreciate the concern. But I've got a job to finish." Isla's eyes narrowed slightly. "You've got the look of someone who's seen worse than fog and old stories." Alex didn't answer. Instead, he glanced at the far wall where shadows moved oddly, too fluid, too tall. For a heartbeat, he thought he saw the outline of a man in a greatcoat, tricorn hat, musket at his shoulder. Then the fire flared, and the shadow was gone. He blinked hard. Fatigue. Stress. Nothing more. Outside, something snapped. A branch. A footstep. Callum stood abruptly, hand going to his belt. "Company?" he muttered. Isla rose, too, listening. Probably deer. Or wind. But Alex had heard it, too. Not deer. Boots on wet stone. He set the mug down. "I should check the van." Isla stepped between him and the door. "Wait till first light. Roads are treacherous in the dark." "I've driven worse," he said, moving past her. As he reached the doorway, a low guttural sound rolled across the moor. Not wind, not animal. Something between a sigh and a wordless shout. The fire dimmed for a second, as though the air itself had sucked the oxygen away. Alex turned back. Isla was staring past him, into the fog. Face pale. Something moved out there. Dark shapes. Taller than people. Gliding just beyond the torch beam. Callum swore under his breath. "They're here." "Who?" Alex demanded. Isla didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed a heavy torch from the ground and flicked it on, sweeping the beam across the field. The shapes vanished, but in the sudden silence, Alex felt eyes on him. Many eyes, from every direction. He backed toward the doorway, hand slipping into his pocket for the van keys. Then, from inside the ruined croft, came the unmistakable sound of metal scraping stone. He spun. The back wall, solid a moment ago, now had a jagged hole where stones had collapsed inward. Through it, torchlight caught the glint of something moving fast. A figure lunged. Alex shoved Isla aside and ran, straight into the fog, boots pounding wet earth, heart slamming against his ribs. Behind him, shouts erupted. Footsteps. the crack of something breaking. He didn't look back. He just ran toward where he thought the van should be. When he reached it, breathless and soaked, the engine turned over on the first try. The headlights flared to life. In the rearview mirror, he saw 3 figures spill out of the croft, torches swinging wildly, and beyond them, taller, darker, silent, several shapes that didn't move like people at all. Alex floored the accelerator. The van lurched forward, tires spinning on mud before catching purchase. He didn't stop until the ruined croft was swallowed by fog. But in the passenger seat, the old map had shifted. One of the red X's, the one nearest Inver Glen, was now circled twice, and beside it, in fresh ink that hadn't been there before, 2 words: "You're next." Chapter 4. Shadows in the Mist. The first pale streaks of pre-dawn light filtered through the fog as Alex guided the van down the final descent into Glenmore. The village appeared like a half-remembered dream, stone cottages huddled along a single main street, slate roofs glistening wet, a handful of street lamps still burning yellow against the gray. Smoke rose thin and straight from several chimneys. The place looked peaceful. Too peaceful after the night he'd had. He pulled into the small car park beside the police station, a squat whitewashed building with a single blue lamp above the door. His hands shook slightly as he killed the engine. The map still lay open on the passenger seat, the fresh ink of "Your next" glaring up at him like an accusation. He folded it roughly and shoved it into his jacket pocket. Inside the station, the air smelled of instant coffee and old paper. A uniformed sergeant, broad, late 50s, name tag reading MC Tavish, looked up from a desk cluttered with reports. Morning, or what's left of it. Mac Tavish's voice was gravelly, unhurried. "You look like you've seen better nights." Alex didn't waste time on pleasantries. "I need to report an incident. Possible assault, possible theft attempt, and something else." Mac Tavish leaned back, chair creaking. "Sit. Start at the beginning." Alex recounted it. The breakdown, the ruined croft, Isla and her group, the sudden attack, the figures in the fog that didn't move like people. He left out the part about Ewan vanishing from the moving van. Some things sounded too insane, even to him. Mac Tavish listened without interruption, scribbling notes. When Alex finished, the sergeant tapped his pen against the desk. "Sounds like the usual Glenmore nonsense," he said. "That stretch has always attracted odd types. Historians, treasure hunters, bloody ghost chasers. Lately it's been smugglers using the old curse stories to keep people away while they move black market antiquities. Your delivery fits the pattern. High value, low profile, rushing through the night." Alex pulled the folded map from his pocket and spread it on the desk. "This was left in my van. Red marks. One's the estate. Another's circled. And this writing appeared after the croft." Mac Tavish studied the map, brow furrowing. Old survey sheet. Clan routes. The X's marked known hiding places from the 45. Caves, bothies, chapel crypts. Someone's been updating it. He tapped the circled spot. "That's the old chapel ruin, half a mile from Inverglen. If your cargo's what I think it is, they'll try to intercept before you reach the estate gates." Alex leaned forward. "What exactly do you think it is?" "Relics," MacTavish said flatly. "Not just antiques. Items tied to the Mac Gregor prescription. Crosses, chalices, a dagger or two. Things the clan used in their last stand. Some families still claim ownership. Others say they're cursed. Either way, people kill for them. Or worse." Alex thought of the silver cross Ewan had placed on the dashboard, and the shapes in the fog. The whispers. Mac Tavish gave a tired shrug. "Fog plays tricks. So does fear. But if you're asking whether I believe in ghosts, he paused. I've worked this patch 23 years. I've seen things I can't explain. Doesn't mean I chase them. Before Alex could respond, the station door opened. Fiona stepped in, rain dripping from her hood, cheeks flushed from the cold. She spotted him immediately. Alex, thank God. MacTavish raised an eyebrow. You two know each other? Met at the Thistle, Fiona said quickly. He gave my granda a lift earlier. Alex stood. You said you'd collect him. He disappeared from the van. Just gone. Fiona's face paled. I know. I've been driving around looking for him. He does this sometimes. Wanders off when the weather turns. But tonight feels different. MacTavish watched the exchange, then stood. I'll put a patrol on the Glen Road. Check the Croft ruin. In the meantime, Mr. Rivera, I suggest you stay put until daylight. Don't try to make the delivery alone. Alex shook his head. I've got a deadline. And if they're after the cargo, sitting here makes me a target. Fiona touched his arm lightly. Come to the pub first. It's just up the street. Warm up. Think it through. I'll help you get to the estate safely. Alex hesitated. Her eyes were steady, earnest. But after the Croft, trust felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. Still, he followed her out. The pub, the Glen Arms, was quiet. Only a couple of early risers nursing mugs at the bar. Fiona led him to a corner booth, ordered 2 coffees, and sat across from him. I'm sorry about Granda, she said. He's not entirely himself lately. Talks about the old days, like they're still happening. He knew things, Alex said. About my past. About the cargo. Things he shouldn't have. Fiona looked down at her hands. He used to work the estate. Groundskeeper for years. Knows every story, every hiding place. When he gets confused, he mixes memory with whatever he's read or heard. But some of it's real. The relics are real. And people want them. Alex pulled the map out again. This chapel ruin. Why's it circled? It's where the last MacGregor holdout happened. They hid their sacred items there before the government troops burned the place. Legend says the spirits of the betrayed still guard it. Anyone who tries to take what's left doesn't leave. Alex met her gaze. You believe that? I believe something protects that ground, she said quietly. I felt it. Seen things in the mist that weren't deer or shadows. Silence stretched between them. Then, outside the pub window, movement. A tall figure in a dark coat crossed the street. Isla. She paused under a street lamp, looked directly through the glass at Alex, then turned and disappeared down an alley. Fiona followed his stare. That's her, isn't it? Alex nodded, already standing. She's here, in the village. Fiona grabbed his sleeve. Don't go after her alone. I need answers. He stepped outside. The fog had lifted slightly with the rising light, but the air still felt thick, watchful. He followed the direction Isla had gone, boots quiet on wet cobbles. The alley narrowed, walls closing in. At the end, it opened into a small courtyard behind the butcher's shop. Wheelie bins, stacked crates, a single flickering bulb. Isla stood waiting, back to him, hands in pockets. You're persistent, she said, without turning. Alex stopped 10 feet away. What did you take from the Croft? She turned slowly. In her right hand she held a small, cloth-wrapped bundle. Nothing that belongs to you or your client. Put it down, she smiled thinly. You don't understand what you're delivering. Those relics aren't just old metal and wood. They're keys to graves, to debts, to things better left buried. Alex took a step forward. Then, why steal them? Because someone has to stop the cycle. Her voice dropped. "The estate's selling them to private collectors. Once they leave Scotland, the curse follows. People die, families broken. It never ends." Alex's mind raced. "You're not historians." "No," she admitted. "We're descendants. The last of the line that swore to protect what was taken." A low sound rolled through the courtyard. Not wind. A sigh. A whisper. Multiple voices overlapping. Isla's eyes flicked past him. Alex turned. In the mouth of the alley stood a figure, tall, cloaked, face hidden in shadow. Armored shoulders. A glint of steel at the hip. It didn't move. It simply watched. Then another appeared beside it. And another. Isla whispered, "They're here." Alex backed up until his shoulders hit the wall. The figures advanced slowly, boots silent on stone, fog curling around their legs like smoke. Isla stepped beside him, bundle still in hand. "Run. Now." But the courtyard had only one exit, and the spectral warriors blocked it. Alex's heart hammered. He looked at Isla, saw fear in her eyes for the first time. Then he looked at the bundle and made a decision. He lunged, not at her, but past her, toward the nearest bin. He grabbed the lid and swung it hard. Metal clanged against something solid. The lead figure staggered. Not illusion, not entirely. Alex didn't wait to understand. He grabbed Isla's wrist and pulled her toward the gap between two warriors. They ran. Behind them, the whispers rose to a howl, and somewhere in the fog, the village bell began to toll. Slow, deep, wrong, as though something long asleep had finally woken. Chapter 5. The Cursed Reckoning. Dawn arrived cold and merciless, the sun a thin silver disk rising behind layers of mist that refused to burn away. Alex pushed the van harder than he should have up the narrow track to Inverglen Estate, tires spitting gravel and mud. The estate gates loomed ahead, wrought iron, rusted at the hinges, flanked by stone pillars topped with weathered heraldic beasts. Beyond them, the driveway curved toward the main house, but Alex didn't intend to reach it. The circled spot on the map, the old chapel ruin, was less than half a mile off the main approach, hidden in a shallow dip between two low hills. That was where they would be waiting. That was where it would end. He killed the headlights 100 meters short of the turnoff and coasted the last stretch in near darkness. Engine noise swallowed by the damp air. When the van finally stopped, he sat for a long moment listening. Nothing but the soft tick of cooling metal and the distant call of a raven. He stepped out, leaving the driver's door open in case he needed to bolt. The chapel ruin appeared as a low silhouette against the paling sky. Crumbling walls no higher than his shoulder, a single arched window still intact. The roof long collapsed into a tangle of beams and slate. A faint orange glow flickered inside, the same color as the peat fire at the croft. Someone had been here recently, or was still here. Alex moved forward, boots silent on wet grass, hand resting on the small folding knife clipped to his belt. The air smelled of damp stone, smoke, and something metallic. Old blood, perhaps, or just imagination. He reached the doorway and peered inside. Isla stood in the center of the nave, illuminated by a battery lantern set on the broken altar. She wore the same waxed jacket, but now a dark scarf was wrapped around her neck. In front of her lay an open wooden crate, the one from Alex's van. The lid had been pried off. Inside, nestled in foam padding, sat a collection of relics, silver chalice, small reliquary box, a short iron dagger with a bone handle, and beside them, the silver cross Ewan had left on the dashboard. Isla looked up slowly. "You're late," she said. Alex stepped inside, keeping distance. "You took the crate from the van, while I was running from your friends at the croft." "Not friends," she corrected. Associates. They wanted the relics for profit. I wanted them back where they belong. Alex glanced around. Where are they now? Gone. For now. She gestured at the relics. This is the last piece. The dagger. The one the MacGregors used to swear their final oath before the troops came. Whoever holds it claims the right to call the debt due. Alex's eyes narrowed. You're talking about ghosts. I'm talking about consequences. Isla's voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. Every time these items are sold, moved, profaned, the old ones stir. Not always visible. Sometimes just bad luck, accidents, disappearances. But when the full set is gathered in one place, she trailed off, looking toward the broken window. They come in force. Alex took another step closer. You're the one who circled the chapel on the map. You led me here. I needed you to bring them, she admitted. The estate's buyer was going to ship them overseas tomorrow. Once they left Scottish soil, the curse would follow, worse than before. I had to stop it. And you were the only driver stubborn enough to make it this far. A low sound rolled through the ruins, not wind. A deep vibration in the ground, like distant thunder trapped underground. The lantern flickered. Alex felt it in his chest first, a pressure, familiar and sickening. The same tightness he'd felt in Kandahar when the radio went dead and he realized the friendly fire call had been deliberate. Betrayal had its own gravity. You're using me, he quietly. I'm asking you to choose, Isla replied. Help me return them, or walk away and let the buyer take them. But if you do that, the debt will come for you too. It already has. The vibration grew louder. Dust sifted from the remaining rafters. Alex looked at the dagger. Bone handle worn smooth by centuries of grip. Blade pitted but still sharp. He reached for it. La tensed. But instead of taking it, he lifted the entire crate, relics and all, and turned toward the doorway. What are you doing? She demanded. Then He carried the crate outside into the growing light. The mist had thinned enough to reveal the stone circle beyond the chapel. Low weathered monoliths arranged in a rough oval, half buried in heather. The original hiding place. The place where the oath had been sworn. He set the crate down in the center. Isla followed, eyes wide. You don't know what you're... I know enough. Alex pulled the dagger from the foam, turned it once in his hand, then drove the blade point first into the soft earth between two stones. The ground accepted it easily. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the earth answered. A crack split the silence, not loud but deep. The stones trembled. A wind rose from nowhere, whipping grass flat and tearing mist into rags. The temperature plunged. Shapes coalesced at the circle's edge. Tall figures in ragged plaids and rusted mail, faces shadowed under hoods and helmets. Dozens of them. Silent, watching. Isla whispered, There, here. Alex stood his ground, heart pounding. Take it back, he said to the empty air. All of it. I'm not keeping anything that isn't mine. One figure stepped forward, taller than the rest, greatcoat flapping in the wind that wasn't there. The face beneath the tricorn hat was hollow-eyed, half bone, half memory. It reached out a gauntleted hand toward the dagger. Alex didn't move. The hand closed around the hilt. The wind howled louder. The ground bucked once, violently. Then stillness. The figures began to fade, first edges blurring, then color draining, until only faint outlines remained, dissolving into the morning light like smoke. The dagger stood alone in the earth. Blade sunk to the guard. Isla exhaled shakily. It's done. Alex looked at her. Is it? Before she could answer, a new sound. Tires on gravel. Headlights cut through the thinning mist. Two vehicles, a black Land Rover and a battered pickup. Doors opened. 4 men stepped out, Callum among them, rifles slung across his chest. Isla swore under her breath. They followed us. Callum smiled thinly as he approached. Nice work, Isla. You got them all in one place. Now we can finish this properly. Alex stepped in front of the crate. It's over. The relics stay here. Callum laughed. They're worth 6 figures to the right buyer. Step aside, driver. He raised the rifle. Behind him, the mist stirred again. But this time, it wasn't the old warriors. A single figure materialized. Ewan, coat dripping, eyes pale and unblinking. He walked forward slowly, boots making no sound on the grass. Callum frowned. Who the hell? Ewan stopped a meter away, raised one hand. The rifle jerked upward, as though pulled by invisible strings. Callum's finger tightened reflexively. The shot cracked. High, wild, harmless. Ewan's voice came low, almost gentle. The debt is paid. Leave what isn't yours. Callum staggered back. The other men hesitated. Then they ran, scrambling for the vehicles, engines roaring to life. Ewan turned to Alex. For the first time, he smiled. Small, sad, almost kind. You carried it far enough, lad. Then he faded, too, leaving only the scent of pipe smoke and wet wool. Silence returned. Alex looked at the dagger, still embedded in the earth. He left it there. Isla touched his arm. We should go before the estate wakes up. Alex nodded once. They walked back to the van in the brightening light. Behind them, the stone circle stood quiet. But as Alex climbed into the driver's seat, he glanced in the rear-view mirror. A faint outline lingered at the chapel doorway. Too tall, too still, watching, waiting for the next time someone tried to take what didn't belong.